Why don't we put our hands together in just a moment here and give a humongous Chicagoland welcome right now to Stephen Curtis Chapman and Nancy Turner. Right now, let's go!
Well,
trying to figure out what song was playing there. I like that. That's good. Okay, there you. Thank you. Yeah. Let me hear a little bit. I was like, that sounds familiar? I think I know that guy. Hey, everybody. Wow, this is fun. Good to see you guys. I was outside this morning.
Yes, you were.
Attempting to play and sing
in the
Christmas
freezing
songs
cold.
in I think it was negative 47 is what my body was telling me it was. So,
amen.
I think the thermometer was broke because it was saying something like 20. I said, "There's no way it's 20 degrees out here. This is." But it was so cold. So thank you for letting me be inside.
Yeah.
I'll just stay forever. Can I stay here all day? This is a nice warm room.
Yeah.
For this stuff.
Well, thank you, everybody who is here for our live studio taping of our podcast. This is the Day. You can find this again. The whole video is going to be up there at thisistheday.fm. And we're so excited to have this guy here with us who has won 58. Can you get that? 58 GMA, Gospel Music Association Awards. So cool. How about a round of applause for that? Come on. Woo! That is so awesome. 5 Grammys, American Music Award, 48 number one singles, has sold nearly 11 million albums, and so many other things. And here we are, and it's Christmas. And you're here with us for Christmas, Stephen.
Yes, so fun.
I know.
Yeah,
we're really
awesome.
happy. So today we're going to be talking about your book. We want to talk about that memoir.
Yes.
We're going to play some music.
Yes, we are.
We have a special surprise at the very end.
Yes.
We're not going to tell anybody about it. You and I talked.
Okay,
Yeah,
we
we had
did.
that
Because
thing
I'm
going
going,
on.
ooh, a surprise. I like surprises. Oh, I'm supposed to be in on this surprise. Okay, oh yeah.
Yeah. So before we get started talking about your book, I have to ask you, after that lineup of awards, what in the world could come next for you? I'm serious. I mean, on the horizon for somebody like you who has written books, written songs, 30 years of doing this and coming from your little life in Paducah, Kentucky, you know, a little toothless guy, saw in the pictures in the book and stuff, man. What could be next for somebody like you? What's in your dream?
Well, you know, this is the great adventure, as a songwriter once said.
Yes.
So you never, what I've learned is you never really know exactly, which is part of what the adventure is, of exactly what God has planned. You know, we kind of make our plans. I am living proof sitting before you. If there was ever the embodiment of we make our plans, but God directs our steps, and that's really what my book is, page after page of that, because of just my journey has been so much different than I could have imagined. And so with that said, you know, I think honestly we're at a point, my wife and I, where it would really be nice to think that things are slowing down a little bit, so we can enjoy family and grandchildren. 6, soon to be number 6 of those in January. Number 6 is coming.
That is so
we have
amazing.
a brand new number 5 that just came 3 weeks ago. So we have 6 new stockings that have been hung over the last few years on our mantle. We're running out of room on our mantle, actually. We're going to have to figure out what we start doubling up or something, which is a wonderful problem to have.
Yeah.
So honestly, you know, that just feels like a season of, you know, enjoying that. You know, there's so much, and we'll probably get into some of it, you know, the work that we do with the organization Show Hope.
Yeah.
That helps come alongside families that are in the process of adopting.
Yeah.
And we also do a lot of work specifically in China with children that are orphaned with medically fragile issues going on, and just incredible miracles that God has let us be a part of through that work. And that's doing anything but slowing down. That's growing and growing. So finding our role in that as that continues to get more and more, rather than let it become, more and more busyness for us. I think just there's a lot. I feel like probably the next year is going to be a lot of kind of figuring some of that out, really taking, the time to do some of that. But certainly I'm going to, as God gives me the opportunity to just keep sharing my story. I think being in a season now where I'm getting to remember, that's a theme that I've been thinking a lot about, is just the importance and the power of remembering our stories, remembering God's faithfulness in our journey. God, told the Israelites in the Old Testament, build these stones of remembrance, build these memorial places, because you will forget. We all have what my pastor calls spiritual amnesia, and we'll forget what God has done unless we retell the stories of his faithfulness and his goodness. And so that's really what I think this season of ministry and life has been for me, and I think will continue to be for at least the future for a little while. I'm writing some songs and always thinking about, there might be another, album, but there are not any immediate plans for that right now. So
well, your book, we want to talk about that. We want to hear some music.
Okay.
So I think we're going to get to something here in a moment. But the funny thing, guys, when you read his book, you find out that everybody didn't believe that you were going to be a singer when you first started out.
Yeah.
What was it that record producer said to you? I think you're going to do well writing songs, but not so sure about the singing part.
The guy who was my first record producer, who actually believed in me kind of from the first guy to believe. Drum a big. No, come back.
You got it?
Okay, I got it. Thank you. These are, sock heaven. I'm convinced there's a pick heaven, and that's because when I drop a pick, I have dropped hundreds of picks that never to be found. I would get on my hands and knees, and I'm going, how could that it would have gone right there, but it hits, bounces, and must go 50 miles because I can never find it. Anyway, so I'm glad we found this one.
Yes.
So I lost my train of thought. I went to pick heaven, and how
well,
in the world did I
producer,
get there?
What they said to you
my
about
singing, yes, I grew up in a family of singers. My dad's a great singer. My older brother is an incredible singer. So I was not the singer growing up. I was the background guy. I was kind of the, and guitar was my thing. It's why I think started, working so hard at being a good musician, because my brother was going to be the singer and I was his accompanist basically. And then I started writing songs actually I think that was the way I began to find my own voice. That was kind of when I sang songs I had written. See, my brother could sing, anything. He could sing great. He sing Barry Manilow's songs. This is dating us a little bit. Our first performance was him singing "Go Away, Little Girl," Donny Osmond, and I was his backup guy. So I mean but he could sing anything and make it sound good. I, on the other hand, when I sang other people's songs, they just didn't quite sound as good. So I think that's a lot of it was the inspiration for me starting to write songs, because when I sang those, nobody had ever heard them, so they didn't know if it was good or bad. Yeah, they just thought, well, I've never heard this song, sounds okay. And I think I felt confident in that, which I think God really used in a way for me to begin to find my voice as a songwriter and communicate the things that were inside me through songwriting. So fast forward to, I'm talking to a guy named Greg Nelson, who one of the most wonderful, sweet guys on the planet, and a great talent, great record producer. But you understand, at the time he was producing Sandy Patty, Steve Green, and Larnell Harris, who were the three greatest vocalists, arguably, that have ever been in Christian music. High notes, could hold on to these high notes and make the hair stand up on the back of your neck. So those were the kind of voices that he was working with. So I come along as kind of a singer-songwriter guy with a little, more of a softer kind of voice and not this spectacular, high notes. And so he did say to me, as we were talking about me possibly starting a career as a recording artist, because I was writing songs. In fact, Sandy Patty had recorded 2 of my songs. That's how I knew him, is that he had produced songs that I'd written on other artists. And he said, Steve, you're not a great singer, which is never really what you want to hear from the guy who's going to produce your records. You really want a guy going, man, you're awesome, you're incredible. But he was kind of like, you're not a great singer, really, necessarily. But when you sing your songs, there's something special there.
Right.
People connect with you in a really unique way, and I think that's a gift that God's given you. So I'm gonna encourage that. I'm gonna fan that flame, and he really did. He's a big part of why I'm sitting here today. So Greg Nelson, thank you. If you ever hear this, I love you. Appreciate you. Even though you said that at the beginning, I understood
love
what
you.
you meant. Yeah, still love
Could
you.
we hear a Christmas song right now?
We could.
You want to
Yes.
do Christmas is All in the Heart? Or you want to pick a different one?
You know what? I'm gonna have to do a little bit of retuning as I go here, because certain Christmas songs, this is what happens after you've played guitar for so long. You begin to find yourself going, everything sounds the same. So I'm gonna start messing up the tuning and come up with a different sound on my guitar. And then you do a concert, you either need 3 guitars to do them all, or you have to retune. So forgive me if I have to take a few minutes to tune a few of these. But I'm gonna start with a song. I did my first Christmas album was about 25 years ago, an album called The Music of Christmas. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with that album or not, but I did that album. A producer named Brown Bannister did that album with me, and I love Christmas music. It's some of my favorite music. I think it's some of the music that I learned first on the guitar, because I was 8 years old. I remember I had a little toy. Basically, it was like a toy guitar. It had a picture of Roy Rogers on the front of it, which I thought was awesome. I loved it, but it was more of a toy and couldn't really play it and make it sound right. And my dad, who's a great musician and a guitar teacher, he still teaches guitar lessons every day at Chapman Music in Paducah, Kentucky. Go find him. Go say hi to him for me. And great guitar player and a great teacher. And so I was 8 years old. I got my first real guitar. And I was so excited. I mean, I slept with it. I took it with me everywhere. I think my mom made me leave it outside of the bathtub. It was about the only place I couldn't take it, because I just couldn't get enough. I love this guitar and love playing music. And so Christmas music is probably some of the first music I learned and as a kid. And so, one of my favorite songs is, I always loved "Hark the Herald Angels Sing." So, I started with this on this album, and then I wrote a song about the music of Christmas, and so just all the different ways that it finds its place into our hearts and into our lives, and so anyway, this is the music of Christmas. There's a man who stands in the cold wind tonight, and he greets everyone passing by with a smile and a ringing bell. And the song that he's playing is his own way of saying love is here. That's the music of Christmas. And there's a lady who sits all alone with her thoughts and the memories of all that she's lost. When she hears a sound at her door, and the song comes to find her as a gentle reminder, love is here. That's the music of Christmas. So listen with your heart, and you will hear a song in the laughter of a child. Oh, listen to the sound of hope, and you will hear the music of Christmas. For the music of Christmas is love. So light a fire, tell the family to gather round, and the walls will echo the sound of memories that are and will be, and their voices like a chorus. They will sing it so sweetly for us. Love is here. That's the music of Christmas. And long ago, there was a baby born in the night. And when he let out his very first cry, the sound was bringing hope alive. Stars were shining, angels singing, all heaven and earth was ringing. Love is here. That's the music of Christmas. So listen, listen with your heart, and you will hear a song in the laughter of a child. Oh, come on and listen to the sound of hope, and you will hear the music of Christmas. For the music of Christmas is love. Thank you.
Stephen Curtis Chapman, ladies and gentlemen. Woo! I love it. So, Stephen, you have written a book, and this is I'm holding it up for our studio audience to see this book. It's called Between Heaven and the Real World. It's called My Story. And the thing I learned as I read this book cover to cover several times, because I really like it a lot, plus there's lots of good pictures, is that you didn't sugarcoat life. You have, in the past, probably currently still, deal with a lot of stuff. And you were pretty candid about it. And the other thing I learned is that every song that you write has something to do with what's gone on in your life. And you really are a storyteller of your life through your songs, and you kind of put it in the book. But one of the things I want to ask you about, to just briefly cover for us here while we're talking to you, is that there are things that are unfixable in life. And yet you stay. And yet you keep going. And I just wondered, because I happen to know that you're an avid reader, like I am, and I know you're into all the classic people that I love. What do you find to help you get through when you can't fix it? And what do you want to say about living life with unfixable things?
Yeah. Well, that is actually one of the things about the process of writing my story, and one of the reasons why I talk so much about, I think, the importance of and the power of remembering. Just experiencing that, the last 3 or 4 years, I've just been doing a lot of remembering. And even starting this book, I remember thinking, this is going to be hard. I can't remember my children's names on many days. I call them the wrong names. So how am I going to remember, my where I put my car keys or my phone? And trust me, my wife could tell you all of the things I can't remember. So how am I going to remember my story and, go back and will it really come back to me? And something, again, really kind of profound happens, I think, when we begin to remember, is that more and more, it's like a flow begins to, happen. And all of these stories started to come back to me from going all the way back to the beginning of my story, of my life, growing up in Paducah, Kentucky, and good and bad, I found myself even laughing out loud, remembering me and my brother Herbie, getting into trouble and all the crazy, shenanigans that would go on with my brother and me, and then, in tears, just weeping over things that happened when I was a young boy, that seemed like, oh yeah, that was kind of, that wasn't good, but getting kind of captured again with just that. And what I found as I told and shared my story is that, and I explain this in the book, I was kind of brought into the world to fix things. My parents' marriage was the first thing. They were at a point, they'd gotten married very, very early in life. Mom was 16 when they got married, and my brother came along very quickly. in their marriage, and so they were just struggling and didn't really have a very good chance of making it. And for some reason, they made had this idea that, why don't we try having another child? We're either going to get divorced. I mean, it really came down to this. We're either going to call it quits, or maybe let's try to have another child. Where that idea came, who thinks that's a good idea to help fix a marriage that's already struggling? I don't know, but I'm thankful they did. And I believe it was the Holy Spirit, because that was me. Mm-hmm. Ta-da!
Yeah.
So I came, but the challenge is, of course, then that meant I came into the world to fix, a lot of broken things without even knowing it. And so I would realize that, over the course of my life, that, coming into that scenario and actually figuring out pretty early on how to do that, how to fix the things that were broken as best I could. Fix it with a smile, with a song, with a, and, even all through school, just be, stay between the lines, and things will work out pretty well. And so as I began to look back at my life, and as I began really to confront, kind of hit head on unfixable things, probably the first of those, and I share real honestly in the book, is when I met the love of my life, Mary Beth Chapman, 34 years ago in Indiana at our mailbox in Anderson College, because we shared a mailbox together because we had the same last name before we got married, which is crazy. I know, kind of weird, unless you're from Kentucky. I say that's not that weird. But anyway, we're not going to talk about that. I didn't say that. We'll edit that out, okay? But she... But fell in love and started our journey together, and it was very quick that soon that we discovered that this is not going to be nearly as easy, and I can't fix these broken things that I'm realizing are in my wife, and all of a sudden it's exposing all these broken things in me that I did a pretty good job of being a good guy, and nothing exposed it at this level, the sinfulness, the selfishness, the brokenness, which is the beauty and the glory of marriage, and why God created it. But
it's God's workbench.
Yes, yeah, exactly, yeah, absolutely. So, that was one of the first places. But then, as I began to kind of reflect on it, I realized something, and it's been, unfixable places that I've encountered personally, and then, our work with, that we do with orphans, the fact that our family is, made up half of our children are through the miracle of adoption. You come kind of face to face with a very unfixable reality in our world, that there are children that don't have families. Yeah. That's not as it should be. And we've been blessed to be a part of, I believe, God's plan for that. And that's, we show up as his people and care for these children. But again, the reality, it exposes your heart to the fact that there's a brokenness here that until heaven, when the word orphan is erased from our vocabulary, this is going to be a reality. There's a brokenness. I've done work with my friend Chuck Colson, who went to be with Jesus a few years ago in prison fellowship. I went into prison, into death row prison cells with Chuck Colson, and spent time with very broken situations and that are unfixable this side of heaven. These are not gonna. These are guys and men and women who've made choices, and life has, happened in a way for them that there's some real brokenness not going to get fixed. Yeah. So what do I do with that? Because I want to fix it. I want to sing a song that's going to fix it.
Yeah.
And yet I see God in those places in profound ways. I spent time, in the jungles of Ecuador, where I read a story about 5 guys who some of you all have heard about, named Jim Elliott and Nate Saint, and others who went and were killed by a tribe that they were trying to reach with the gospel. And God allowed me to go spend time with that tribe in that very spot where those men were killed, in this place where incredible things have happened since that time. Yeah. And yet there's still real brokenness, and it cost families lives, that it altered their life forever. And yet God showed up and has revealed himself in those ways. And ultimately, for me and my family, and as I share in the book, the ultimate unfixable for us was the loss of our little girl Maria 9 years ago. And that, again, the kind of deepest place that I couldn't even have ever imagined walking through, that can't be fixed and won't be fixed this side of heaven. And so it forced me, I think, even writing my story, to kind of go, what do I do with that? What do we do with those unfixable things in our life?
Right. And so you have your music. And your music touches the lives of all of us who have experienced things, including the loss of a child, including hard marriages, including just being human, trying to be together. So you write your music, and then we come up against something like Christmas, when Jesus comes to the neighborhood to show us what love is. And suddenly we are faced with something, right, Stephen? Because I know you're a rich and profound thinker. So we're faced with something that has to do with unfixable and Jesus. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, well, I've been kind of sharing this story every night from stage on this Christmas tour that I'm on right now, K-Love Christmas Tour. It's been a really great tour, great people out with me, Mark Martell and We Are Messengers and Plum, 3 other wonderful artists and wonderful people. And but I've been talking about that and sharing because I remember at Christmas time, it was 9 years ago that we were facing our first Christmas without Maria. And as I've already sung and said, I love Christmas music. I've loved, I love from Jingle Bells to the most profound, O Come Emmanuel.
Yeah.
I love all of those songs and the nostalgia and the fun, but then obviously the weight of those great theology in those songs. But so much of it, I missed when you grow up singing those songs. You just kind of sing the songs and, joy to the world, the Lord has come, and that's just a song you grew up singing at Olivet Baptist Church in Paducah, Kentucky. And but I remember very distinctly that first Christmas 9 years ago that we honestly wanted to just kind of tear December off the calendar, that old page, wad it up, throw it away, and say, can we just skip this month? Can we just, because we didn't know how we were going to get through it. And just kind of wake up in January and that all be behind us. And to be honest, we would have been fine to not wake up in January at all and just go home and all be back together as a family. But we gathered together and we, as we do every year, we pulled out the stockings and went to hang them up. And of course, there's Maria's stocking. And, what do we do with that? I mean, it wasn't a question whether or not we would hang it up, but just all of the weight of that, what do we do with this moment? And it was one of those, like so many moments that we have had in the last 9 years, where there was really a choice that we made again to drop anchor. And Scripture talks about we have this hope as an anchor, to drop our anchor in the promises of God, in God's Word, to acknowledge, and this is the thing that sometimes we don't do so well in the church, but I think is so important. And if you look at Scripture, it's acknowledged page after page. In fact, the Psalms became so much more real to me after losing Maria, because I began to realize how many pages in Psalms begin with, how long, O Lord, are you going to forget me forever? Yeah. There's screaming pain going on there in the heart of the psalmist so many times. And yet we tend to want to skip to the, better is one day in your courts, your love is better than life. Let's sing those kind of happy songs that are true, but skip over the other truth that we're really aching and longing and waiting and in pain.
And there's a lot of people listening to us right now who are in that kind of pain.
Right.
So do you want to do a song or something that might kind of flow into that? And I don't care what you choose.
Yeah, can connect some of that together. Yeah. Well, let me think here. What would be the best one to do there? I will, to kind of finish the thought of we're deciding. Okay, we're going to hang this Christmas stocking 9 years ago. I think it was then and so many times since that, but especially that first Christmas, that the reality of Christmas became so much more profound for me. Yeah. Because, God with us, God is with us. What does that really mean? To say it, to sing it, but to really experience it, that what God was saying in the way He came to this earth, the way he sent Jesus to a manger, to a barn. He should have, if we had been scripting it, if I'd have scripted, he would have been born in a golden cradle, in a palace, because that's what royalty does. And this is the most royal of all royalties. So it should have just been even, ramped up from anything you could imagine. But instead, God sent Jesus. And we all know the story, and we sing the song, Away in a Manger, to a manger, which sounds lovely when you sing it in a song, but it's a feeding trough for animals. It's messy and dirty and stinky, and then puts hay in it, which, again, sounds kind of comfortable in a song, but I have asthma, and I know what trying to sleep on hay feels like. It means game over for me, and it's itchy, and it's uncomfortable. And God is saying, I am coming to be with you in the pain, in the mess, in the nastiness of whatever, the world throws at you, whatever happens in this life, I am coming to be with you. As much as we want to, and as a family want to say, but God, why? And change this and fix this. God says, right now, I can't answer all those questions. You can't conceive, your brain can't process all this, but will you trust me? And will you trust that I am with you?
Yeah.
And I'm for you in this. And that's what, all of a sudden, I knew it, that I think it was so much more powerful when I was able to experience that in that first Christmas. And Christmas became so much more, we were desperate for it.
You were desperate.
And the more desperate we become for the hope that Christmas is, the more powerful and real and profound it becomes.
Yeah.
And, I'm going to sing not a Christmas song, if I may, although I think it is a Christmas song. I've been singing it on this tour, actually. But I wrote this song just thinking about a lot of what we're talking about. And really is another of many songs I've written kind of from our story and our journey. I sat with a dear friend, a guy named Matt Maher, who's a great songwriter and friend of mine, and shared the story of just our journey of holding on to hope, even when hopelessness was just doing everything it could to consume us. And as I shared with him, and I mean, by the time I finished with our story, we were both crying. It was snot running everywhere. It was not a pretty cry. It was ugly cry. And it was two guys, two dudes, just crying their eyes out. But we sat down, and he had been jotting words as I spoke and just told the story. And he said, "Man, here's what you just said." And so he sat at a piano, and I picked up a guitar and actually wrote this song just in probably a couple of hours. And so this is called Hallelujah, You Are Good. We are standing in between hope and despair, believing in your grace and the faith to declare you are with us. Hallelujah, hallelujah, you are good. In the ashes and the dust, in the sorrow and pain, lies the promise of your word and the power of your name. You are with us. Hallelujah, hallelujah, you are good. And when faith gives way to fear, I will trust your heart. I will trust your heart. When I cannot feel you near, I will trust your heart. I will trust your heart. There's a promise being written with the morning sun, and a new song for the broken. Death is lost and love is won, and you are with us. Hallelujah, hallelujah, you are good. Hallelujah, 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 you are good. Our God is with us. Hallelujah, hallelujah, He is good. You are with us. Hallelujah, hallelujah, you are good.
Father, we thank you so much. We thank you so much, Lord, that you have given Stephen the words to say that soothe our hearts and the hearts of millions of people listening around the world right now to this. So we thank you for that, God. And I want to say thank you to some other people real quick, because we have a surprise for everybody here today. Stephen, we talked about this whole thing here. I'll remind you in a second. I want to say a big thanks to everybody who brought this together. This is our very first in-studio live podcast, and thank you, everybody, for coming. I mean, awesome. Woo! We hope to do lots more of these, so keep your eyes open at thisistheday.fm. We'll keep you up to date on all of that. Thanks to our production team. Thanks to Judy Crone, who brought this all together, my sweet dear sister, and Chris Seagard for putting it, all the engineering stuff together, and just everybody, all your names. I love you. Thank you for that, and especially you, Stephen, which I was wondering if I could remind you if we could wrap up by having some fun with our wonderful brothers and sisters out here by doing a little Christmas sing-along.
Sing along, yeah. What do you guys think?
What do you guys think?
You up for it?
Can we do it?
Feeling it?
Come
Feeling
on,
it?
come
All
on,
right.
come on, come on, come on. A little more than that. Come
Yeah,
on.
let's see.
Woo, come on.
Y'all need to stand up. You sing better if you stand
Yeah,
up.
come
I
on,
think.
everybody.
Maybe. Yeah,
On
yeah.
your feet. Woo!
Let's sing this. Angels we have heard on high, sweetly singing on the praise, and the mountains in reply, echoing their joyous strain. Do you know this chorus, everybody? Gloria in excelsis Deo. All right, sing that chorus again. Sing.
Chapman, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. And learn all about Stephen when you go to thisistheday.fm. We will have links to his book, which is, I'm a little surprised about that too, but we have a link to his book and everything about Stephen, so make sure you check it out. Watch this whole thing once again. We've videoed it, so you're going to see it all at thisistheday.fm. You can listen to it again. And Stephen, any last words, my friend, before we cut you loose to go do all your other fun things today?
Well, just, Merry Christmas. And I will
Yes.
say, as my pastor has often said, when we really get a hold of what Christmas really is, I love the song, Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. I think it's a, sweet song and fun, but I actually love the idea that when we really get a hold of what it means that the God of the universe came to our neighborhood to be with us in whatever, then we will have a not merry little Christmas, but a huge, majestic, epic, awesome Christmas. So that's what I hope for you
Amen.
guys.
Woo!
Merry
All
Christmas.
right.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.